All right, considering that we just talked about transitions, I'm going to show you um, how using more effective transitions can really help in our organization. Because what I found in our paragraphs is we were not organizing them very logically. This wasn't a universal problem, but for those of us that struggled with it, it was pretty bad. And so let's talk about what that means. So this is general organization problems, meaning that we were not putting our content in our paragraph in a place that would be most effective. Instead, it seemed like we were just kind of like throwing darts on the board and just like saying like, well, that'll be a good place to put evidence. So let's take a look and see what I'm talking about here. I'm only looking at evidence. I'm not going to comment on any I'm not going to do anything with potentially problematic sentences. So let's go through this and I'll talk to you about simply how this student organized their paper. So, The Interlopers by Saki is a story of many themes. However, one stands out among the others by fitting into real life and the story. Quote, holding on to a conflict and keeping a grudge can result in consequences. So, I'm not going to say anything about it, but that needs some work. Continuing, The Interlopers nicely explains this theme. The way the two families, the von Gradwitz family and the Znaim family, form this absolutely negative relationship with each other over a strip of forest between the two families' property that was rightfully the von Gradwitz's. The main characters of the story, Ulrich von Gradwitz and George Znaim, both get trapped under the same fallen tree, resolve their conflict between each other, even though it probably did not resolve the conflict between the families. Okay, well, this seems totally random. The other thing is, like, this is really swift. Didn't they just summarize the entire paper, like the entire story? They just summarized a, like, 7-page story in 2 sentences. What the heck are you going to do for the rest of your paragraph? But let's keep going. The two then die from a pack of wolves that were nearby. Okay, heads up, we don't know if that happened. A lot of you made that mistake of saying, like, they totes died. I mean, like, they probably did, but we don't know that for a fact. But, okay, whatever. Again, they just summarize, like, this whole thing is summary. So, with that, but let's continue. There is foreshadowing to hint at their eventual demise. An example of this is when they are initially trapped under the fallen tree. George makes a wish of death and damnation to Ulrich, and Ulrich wishes the same to him. Question! What in the world? So you go through the entire paper, you literally summarize the entire thing, and then you say, wait, hold up, I got something I got to tell you about. Like, what? Shouldn't that have been... here? Instead, you are like, wait, let me tell you the whole story, and then I'm going to have you go back and tell you the whole story. That's like what your annoying friend does when they're telling a story. Well, first, I got to school. Well, oh my God, first, let me tell you, when I got up, oh my God, can't even start there. I have to start when I went to bed the night before. Like, what the heck? Why do I have to keep going back? Just go forward, move forward in the story. That's what the student is doing. They're going forward, and then they go back. They're saying, wait, hold on, I got to tell you this. Ugh! It's very frustrating, especially considering that they wasted a lot of time up here summarizing a buttload of the story. So let's keep going here. The way this relates to the theme is that they held on to this conflict for 3 generations, and the way they get punished for it was a pack of wolves coming to eat them, even though they resolved the conflict between each other. Okay, I just got whiplash. So they made me go back in the story, but then they make me go even further back by saying, like, 3 generations. Like, that's the beginning of the story. And then, oh my God, then they're punished. Then they fast forward to the end of the story. And then they say they resolve the conflict between each other. So they go back, forward, and back some more. I'm like going whoop 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 whoop. I'm losing. I'm having a hard time. You know how many times I've read this story, and this paragraph is making me so confused. So that's what I'm talking about, general organization. The student is not going chronologically or just in a straight line. Instead, what they're doing is they are going this way, then back, then this way, then back, then this way, then back, then this way. It's not a tennis match. That's not what we're doing here. But if I continue, even though The Interlopers has many different themes that fit well into real life, one stands out amongst the others. It was blank but blank. The theme previous lesson encourages people to resolve their conflicts before it's too late. So the big thing here, and I'll get into the other, so the big thing here is the general organization. What I will also point out is that there's very little commentary. So I get very sad because the commentary is completely missing. So I don't know what they're trying, I don't know how any of this talks about resulting in consequences, which is the student says. They said, like, apparently the biggest consequence is that the wolves eat them, which we don't even know if the wolves eat them. But like, this is basically what the student has done is they've summarized the entire story and told me that that fits the theme. Not only did they summarize it, but they go back this way, then back, then back, then that, then that. It's all over the place. So I want you to take a look at your organization. Do you go in chronological order? And if it's not chronological, at least is it logical? Something that your reader can follow. Typically, you're going to want to do chronological order. Okay, especially with a theme paragraph and particularly with your personal essay. You're not, if I'm going to talk about my grandma, I'm not going to talk about, like, you know, how she had strength when her husband died, but she also had strength when she was diagnosed with polio, and she also had strength when her son came home from the Vietnam War. Like, that's going back and forth. Right? So she was diagnosed with polio, then you could talk about her husband dying, then you could talk about her son coming home and her having to take care of him. So like that, it has to be logical. Oftentimes it's going to be chronological for the types of writing that we've been doing so far. So take a look at your organization.